Saturday, mostly sunny and becoming breezy and pleasant, the high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Thank you, Joe. 12 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. This Saturday, we will be at Light Up Ocala. Come and find us. We will have a booth or a tent, whatever you call it.
Yep.
About a couple of feet away, maybe 20 feet, 30 feet away from Silver Springs Boulevard on, what's that, Magnolia?
Yep, going north, the one-way street going north, and also by the Christmas tree.
Just east of the square itself. Mm-hmm. If you've been at the Light Up Ocala event and seen us in the past, we were at the same place that we've been for the last few years.
Yeah.
And we have a big TV we're giving away. It's a 55-inch Samsung TV. I believe the TV is from Sears right here in the Paddock Mall. Mm-hmm. And we will be gathering names from people at Light Up Ocala. And a name that was picked from the box that those names go into will be the person who wins the TV. In addition to gathering names there, we'll be gathering names on the air. I haven't had the go-ahead yet from Joe or Dan.
Right.
But once one of my bosses, everybody here's a boss, by the way.
Exactly.
Everybody's a boss.
Not me.
No, you and I are see, there's a totem pole, right? I don't know who's at the top, but I know who's at the bottom.
That's right.
It's you and me. We're at the bottom.
Exactly.
All right, so... all right, there's a lot of things in the news, but I know because of our interview with Mr. Stott, that was interesting, wasn't it? You know what I wanted to share with him? I wanted to share with him the story of Gudrun, oh my gosh.
Plitz. Dr. Gudrun Plitz.
Yeah, Gudrun Plitz is a pen pal of ours in Germany, and she lived in East Germany for her whole life, basically. Yeah. And when the wall went down, she said, I want to see how the other half lives, and she moved over to what was West Germany. Now she lives in Stuttgart or something like that.
Yes, Stuttgart.
And she had told us that I actually did some radio interviews with her, so I've spoken to her.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
And she actually had told us that she went to buy a car in East Germany, and she was on a waiting list. 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
Yes.
She had to wait to buy a car. Mm-hmm. And she had a bicycle, and she had, 3 children or 2 children?
2 children.
2 children. And she used to ride on her bicycle. Can you imagine this now? Waiting for this car for 8 years. She would take her bicycle, and she would ride her bicycle with the 2 children. I don't know how she did this. Mm-hmm. She would drop off the 2 children at wherever they were going. I think they had 2 different locations, but that's besides the point. She would drop them off.
Yeah.
Then she would drive her bicycle to her factory job, work the whole factory job. I don't know where the husband was or what the story, I don't remember. I'm sure there's more to the story than I'm remembering. Yeah. Then she would take the bicycle at the end of her day and go pick up the kids and go home. Mm-hmm. And she said when the wall came down and she was able to see what life could have been like, had had that whole episode not happened for that country, she was like, oh my gosh, they have it so much better over there. Now she's oh my gosh, she posts photographs all the time. She's really like embracing it, even though it's been 20-something years since the wall came down.
Right, exactly.
Or more than that. 30-something years, right?
And religion was suppressed over there. So then when the wall came down, then she wanted to learn about Jesus, and she loved to sing. And that's how she learned about Jesus, was through singing the Christmas song.
That's
that
true.
Was really
I forgot
touching.
about that part of the story, yeah.
Yeah, so she learned about Jesus through the Christmas song. So gosh, that is amazing.
And good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Larry and Robin. It's Mark.
Hey, Mark.
And that was a neat interview. Is that the gentleman, Larry, that took the actual photograph of the little boy?
No, it wasn't. He was
okay.
No, but yeah, I know that was a great. But I think if I'm right, he's the guy who took some of those black and white pictures of the refugees that really
made the news.
Yeah, I mean, really make you. They move you in one way or another. I know there's bad news about some of the misbehaviors and things like that, but.
Well, I guess the point of my call is if we go back, it's funny because it all came full circle in your conversation, because if you go to 9/11, it seems like we may have attacked the wrong country in response to that. If Al-Qaeda is sponsored, like Senator Graham said, from Florida, by Saudi Arabia. So what we did is we went and attacked Iraq, and then you had what were called the uprisings in the Middle East, and with Chalmers Johnson, the former CIA consultant, Chalmers Johnson, a World War II naval officer veteran. He wrote the book called Blowback, and it really shows how the actions of a superpower and then the response, what happens afterwards. And I think we're still dealing with that with the refugees that come out of Syria. And I would ask you, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, Larry, but if you were to guess, say the world is broken into three major superpowers, with China, Russia, and the United States, the president of Syria, Assad, who would you think he's aligned with, or do you know, Larry?
You know, I think that what we need to do is look at the world and say that there are some bad people in this world, and also recognize that we've made some mistakes along the way. I don't think that we've made mistakes. Now, we could argue this, I guess, but I don't think we've made mistakes with the intent of doing harm. I think the intent was always good. We could argue that. I know we've got, oil interests and all those things come up in conversations. But I think we both agree that we have made mistakes. But
I'm not calling to criticize
the vast majority of us, though, want what's best in the world. And so when we see things like a need for refugees to find a safe place, the heart of us wants them to have that safe place. And I mean, that's the bottom line. Of course, everything is with guarded. We have to guard ourselves as well. I mean, it's no different than the guy walking down the street who says to you, "Hey, can I spend the night in your house?" Well, I don't know who you are,
Mm-hmm.
So you don't let him in your house. You let him on your front porch.
Well, and that wasn't the crux of my question, but I appreciate you sharing it, and we both agree. I mean, there can be a few bad elements amongst the refugees. They are literally fleeing with their lives, like the gentleman said, who sounds like he was there. But and they're fleeing Al-Qaeda. There can be some Al-Qaeda people popped into there. But my question to you, Larry, do you know what superpower Assad, the president of Syria, aligns with?
Tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, it's really not that big a deal, but we have, and it goes right through this presidential election, but he is aligned with Vladimir Putin. And the reason I mention that is, had the Americans and many people on the left, which I protested the Iraq War personally, but there are many people on the left that are really more peace activists than myself. Some of them are actually totally opposed to any type of war. And if they would have opposed.
Well, and the reason I made the point I made about we've made mistakes is because we have made mistakes. That's my whole the part.
I agree. I agreed with you, Larry. Yeah.
And right, and so when we make mistakes, we say, okay, well, let's not make that one again. And it's hard. It's hard when you're trying to do the right thing. I mean, how many times have you done something? I've made mistakes where I would try to help one person out, and then find out that I've got a leech on my hands, or find out that I was duped.
Yeah, right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. People can put that front person up, and actually you've got the Beverly Hillbillies on your hand. I understand that, but what my point is that if we just take a glance back quickly in history, as the world seems to be spinning quicker, is that John Kerry, the Secretary of State, wanted to bomb Syria, and actually not the constituents, not the voters of the Republican Party, but the Republican Party in Congress blocked John Kerry from bombing Syria. He would have tried to stop the uprising before Assad's army couldn't conduct it, and then the rest of the power vacuum was filled in over time with Al-Qaeda elements, and now there's a very complicated war going on there with refugees. But in other words, so when we voted for George Bush, not Larry Whitler and Mark Hankins, but when we voted for George Bush as a country, however he ends up there, I ask those voters, do they have any compassion for the Americans that were killed in a war that really didn't seem to help anyone? I don't hear them
the answer is
complaining
yes.
about. Yeah, you would, because you're a good-hearted person, and I've always said that, and I think Robin might be. But we hear about 3 corporation security guards from Benghazi that weren't working for the government. They were representing the government from a commercial standpoint. So propaganda is a big deal.
Yeah, propaganda is a big deal. And I think as long as we keep believing that the other side would have been the ones who could have been Superman, then we have to really look at things the way they are and not try to pretend that, oh my gosh, had you just listened to me, we would have been so much better off. I don't know that that's always true.
And I'm not trying to make that point, but I was trying to get to my final observation, and it's something, instead of looking at the moment and looking at the past, I'm asking the listeners right now and yourselves to understand what we have looking at us is the strong connections to the Russians, and who happen to have a port on the coast of Syria, Larry, is the Russian Navy, and they've been there for 50 or 60 years. So had the Americans been able to attack Syria, that would have given the Russians, and this was before Vladimir Putin went into Crimea and Ukraine, we could have told the Russians, we're not only going to go after Assad, your puppet in the Middle East, we'll go after you. But instead, we weren't allowed to hit him. And with the response to that, even though I'm a bit of a peacenik, I'm not apathetic. And John Kerry's a war veteran, did 2 tours in Vietnam, so he protested the war afterwards. But Kerry spearheaded the desire to bomb Assad. Had that been allowed to occur, Larry, my point is, we could have maybe let the Russians know we're not going to let you roll in Crimea.
Right.
So movements that's all Mark was calling about. The movements on the chessboard have big ramifications.
Got it.
So
we got to go.
My concern with Donald Trump's alignment with the Russians is very
dubious. We got to go. We really have to go. I'm sorry. I tried to get you to hear me. All right. Hey, this is about opinions. I'm fine with opinions, but I have a clock. That's all. I'm not being rude. I just have a clock. This is WOCA Ocala. We'll be back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Carmen Roberts. President-elect Trump meets with Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in New York today.